Welcome to the third edition of the Africa Global Business Forum under the theme New Drivers, New Partners from Dubai. And of course, the forum is focusing on forces that will drive Africa's development for the next 5 years. We're expecting a lot of people from heads of state, ministers of trade from across Africa, and of course the United Arab Emirates, including our very own President, His Excellency Paul Kagame. And of course, you might remember that also last year, President Paul Kagame was among the speakers. And at the end of the forum, the Dubai Chamber of Commerce reported that there are several Rwandan companies doing business apparently in Dubai, and today they'll be focusing on how to exploit, of course, the opportunities, investment opportunities in Africa and the Gulf region. The 2015 Africa Global Business Forum under the theme New Drivers, New Partners focused on what government leaders in Africa can do to facilitate long-term growth and development. The forum also served as a platform to encourage international revenue flows into Africa by engaging leading decision makers on the global investment scene. Speaking to various government officials from across Africa, they unanimously called for heavy investment into infrastructure development on the continent. So tell me, what can Africa achieve from this forum?
We'll get first networking. It's a good opportunity for us to meet different stakeholders and also get experience about development. Taking the case of Dubai, for instance. Infrastructure is one of the main concern for us, and within the discussion that we have, we get more information about how we can better develop our continent.
What do you think are some of the challenges that need to be addressed for everything that is being discussed here to be achieved?
What's important? It's finance is one of the concerns, and the cost of finance, access to finance, and the cost of finance. The ability to get this, we heard in the previous discussion that there will be a need also to improve the business environment in order to create an appropriate environment for the private sector to invest in Africa.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think this forum is very important for Africa because we have strong needs about some important infrastructure and project led by the NEPAD, the New Partnership for the African Development. And we think that by focusing with the partnership with Dubai, Africa mainly can have a great success in terms of founding. This is the most important topic right now. We have opportunities, we have projects by NEPAD, by each of our countries, but the problem is how we can find funding and financement coming from the private sector or from our government. So we think that this is the third session of the Africa Global Business Forum, and we seek to have the support of the Emirate of Dubai and of course the support of all the investors coming from UAE, because we know that they have interest in Africa, but sometimes they lack of information about what are the real opportunities in Africa in terms of infrastructure, transportation, agriculture, IT, and business. We think that we can start a new partnership between Africa and UAE. That's most important for us.
A lot of people here in Dubai are eager to speak to some of the delegates from Africa, considering that the continent is economically growing at a very fast pace. Also, we spoke to some of the investors at the forum who highlighted something very important in regards to skills and human resources. This is something lacking in Africa, and they are willing and looking forward to investing more into this sector. Now, moving to Rwanda, you know, what you have done in Uganda, what you're looking forward to doing in Rwanda?
So Rwanda being very stable, the president has made a very conducive atmosphere for investments. We are very positively looking what we can do in Rwanda. I'm meeting the industry-specific people. I'm meeting the president, and after that we will have plans which I will talk about in a couple of weeks. What next we'll be doing in Rwanda. You talked about the environment being conducive, but is there any key factor that you can point out and probably say this is what makes Rwanda stand out from other countries in terms of investment? So Rwanda is also very rich in agriculture and other resources, and it neighbors to two very good markets. One is Burundi and one is Eastern DRC, which are the markets which can be very well fed from Rwanda. So my primary focus would be that how we can create value addition and feed Rwanda as well as feed the neighboring markets all across.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
In this regard, Ambassador Richard Sezibera, the Secretary General of the East African Community, noted that the region is working towards bridging the skills gap. With this forum and looking at all the things that are happening in East Africa, let's take a look at the war in Burundi, take a look at South Sudan, the instability and some of the tribal and other conflicts. What is the East African community doing to ensure that they create a sustainable and stable environment for these investors?
Well, first of all, East Africa is stable, by and large. I think the East African community is one of the fastest growing regions on the continent, in the world. Some of our countries among the fastest growing countries in the world. And there is already lots of investment coming from East Africans themselves, trading among themselves, but also a big potential for investments from the Middle East, from Dubai, from the Gulf areas. Secondly, there is a lot of movement of labor, of our workers from East Africa to the Gulf, which we need to, one, organize, two, protect, three, regulate. So there is a lot of potential collaboration between us and the Gulf. Of course, there are pockets of insecurity, including Burundi, including South Sudan, which must be dealt with, but there are processes also to deal with those hotspots as the rest of the region continues with growth and investment. Let's
go back to laborers. You know, one of the things that were talked about today by the investors was the lack, I can't say lack, but lack of enough skills, to move Africa to the next level. But let's look at the East African community. What is it doing to address this issue of inadequate skills, to bridge the gap?
Well, the skills gap is real. We have, on the one hand, millions of East Africans coming onto the job market, many of them without skills. So that is a challenge which all countries must address. At our level in the East African community, we've put together a forum which brings together academics, universities, the Business Council of East Africa, and financiers to make sure that we can have the conversation are we training the right people for the market? What does the market want? What kind of jobs are needed for the future? Are we training the right people, or are we training people for the past? Are we training those of the future? So that conversation is ongoing, and I can say that comparatively, I think the numbers are not as good as we'd like them to be, but they certainly are better than they were 10, 15 years ago.
Let's take a look at the conference. Africa has a lot to offer, absolutely a lot. What does East Africa have to offer in particular to the investors coming from the United Arab Emirates?
Well, it offers 150 million people. That's already a big market. It offers a region that has a growing middle class with spending power. It offers a region that is growing extremely fast, in which poverty levels are coming down extremely fast. Rwanda has brought down poverty levels perhaps for the fastest in the entire human history. And this is being replicated across our region. It offers connectivity. All our capitals are now connected to fiber optic cable, and including backward linkages which are now ongoing. And it offers, most importantly, an important vision for the future. This is a region that will be in middle income in the next 20 or so years, and therefore the time for investors, not only from the Emirates but from all over the world, is now to be part of that growth in East Africa.
Do you think we are ready for investors in the mineral sector?
We are more than ready. I think the mineral sector is one area that's growing. We still need to do some homework around harmonization of regulations and building our own capacities, frankly, to negotiate good deals But beyond that, I think that this is in many ways a frontier sector. Not only minerals, but oil and gas.
Seen lots of successful projects, to integrate the East Africa community, looking at the North Corridor and lots of things. Are there other projects you can probably share with us?
Well, East Africa has 10 corridors. Now, the Northern Corridor is leading in the integration process in trade facilitation, removing barriers to trade and carrying out shared investments. But this can be replicated on the Central Corridor, on the LAPSET, from Lamu to South Sudan, Juba, eventually to Ethiopia. That corridor, very rich in minerals, in infrastructure. From the Lake Victoria corridor itself, that ring around Lake Victoria, where you can do fishing and agriculture and tourism and IT. So name any sector and you will find takers in East Africa.
Looking at the forum today and everything that has been said, of course, can you just highlight one key factor that you think needs to be addressed to achieve everything that is being said here today?
I think I would, of the many things that were said today, I was struck most by the question that was asked President Kagame was about what he would do if he ran again, and he said I would do more of the same of what I'm doing for Rwanda. I think that can work for many of our countries in East Africa. I think if the leaders continue to do what they're doing today in advancing integration, then the future is extremely bright.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Thank you.
Welcome back to Business Digest. We're coming to you from Dubai. Remember, you can be part of the conversation using a hashtag Business Digest and let us know what you think about the show. We would love to hear from you. Now, two excellencies often seen on the African continent, DP World Chairman and the President and CEO of the Dubai Chamber of Commerce. I sat down with them earlier on to find out what more Africa needs to do to attract more investors. His Excellency, thank you for having time to sit down to talk to us. Taking a look at the summit, it's been 3 years in a row. What has been achieved as out of this?
I think it's important through events like this to highlight the fact this is a long-term relationship than just a short-term one. What was very important for us is really to raise the awareness about the possibilities of Africa for the investors from all over the world and what Dubai also can contribute to these opportunities. Of course, we all are aware that the whole world is looking at Africa and everybody talking about the big opportunities of the fast developments economies and the big growth of populations, but many people don't really know exactly what they can do in Africa, and they don't really understand, I would say, Africa in the right way. Well, one important thing was for us really to educate the businessman in this part of the world about opportunities in Africa, about which countries, because everybody think at Africa as one country. It's not. It's multiple of countries with different opportunities and different challenges as well. So I strongly believe there are great understanding nowadays comparing to when we started, not only about understanding of Africa, but opportunities in Africa, sectors, and how to do it. We start seeing bigger movements nowadays, shifting from just trading with Africa, which I would say historically been growing quite well between especially Dubai and the Gulf region and Africa, to more investments in Africa. And the difference between trade and investment, trade is a very short-term relationship. Usually it lasts between months to a year or so. Investment is the other way around. It's more of medium to long term. And this is a major shift in the way we start looking at Africa.
So you say the key thing you've achieved so far is awareness.
Awareness is definitely is.
So do you think Africa is really doing enough to create a favorable and stable environment for the investors from Dubai?
I would say also different countries are doing different things. Certain countries are more active maybe than others. Also, they are going through different cycles. When you see nowadays with the low commodities prices, maybe the interest in these economies in West Africa is less than what it used to be maybe a year ago or before that. But there are also more opportunities when you look at East Africa, especially from our part of the world. There is a close proximity, that's one. But also, I would say the investors in the Gulf have good experiences and competitive advantage with certain sectors of interest to especially East African economies. And maybe to name few, tourism, real estate, banking, retail. These are areas.
Your Excellency, thank you for having time to sit down to speak with us. This is the third time we're having this forum in Dubai. Yes. What are some of the things you can highlight or that have been achieved in the past 3 years?
Well, first of all, I believe this forum is very successful. The fact that we're doing it the third time, it is an opportunity on this platform that there's a lot of networking. People who came the first time for the first session, they understood something. More business people are coming, more participants actually are coming, and it gives them an opportunity to meet. They have needs and they have suppliers, and they have suppliers in Africa and there's need in Dubai. So this platform is not just the lecture that you see today, which we participate in, but actually the business that will be conducted between the African businessmen and the Dubai businessmen.
Dubai is doing quite a lot. What does Africa need to do to attract investors to make the environment safer and sustainable for the investors?
Well, Africa is a very important market. It's a growth market. 7 out of 10 countries in the world that are with high growth are in Africa. The impediments are two. One of them is infrastructure, which Africa is in bad need, and every year is, you can realize it. Basically, the ports, no problem, you can build a port, but how to move from the port internally, roads, rails, even improving roads will be a big plus. And then soft, meaning technology, process, custom procedures. Bureaucracy kills business, and there's a lot of bureaucracy and red tape. Sometimes it is inherited. People, not because they want to have a red tape, because this is the way it used to be. So these things have to be handled and tackled.
Let's talk about infrastructure, because it's the main focus today. Are there some signings or projects we're signing today to help in the infrastructure development in Africa?
Well, today we talk about this infrastructure, and we talk about this problem not only today, every meeting actually. Infrastructure investment is needed, but you need the investors. We believe that private-public partnership is the most successful way. That's what we have adapted in our business, and we believe this is the most successful way to go forward. How to attract the fund or the finance to fund these projects. We need better regulations, more transparency, more assurance that the foreign investment is going to be safe, because people in the world who have the money, they have many choices. That's why you see a lot of investments still in Europe when the return in Europe is 2% or 3%. People are happy because it's safe. While in Africa, return could be 10 to 15 to 20%, and still people are hesitating. There are a lot of bad experiences where investors have invested and they received problems. So I believe transparency and good governance and protection of foreign investment is key to attract the fund to Africa for the infrastructure.
With President Kagame's presence for the second time at this forum, he has put Kigali as one of the destinations for the Arab investors. For example, they are looking in investing in an economy that is sustainable and very safe. His Excellency President Paul Kagame expressed this during a panel discussion at the forum, where he reiterated the fundamental pillars needed to facilitate foreign investment in Rwanda.
Really what we are going to do in Rwanda, given that the fundamentals are now in place, we have had political stability, we've seen structural reforms, we've seen macroeconomic stability. So we are moving again now to continued investments in increasing the capacity, the skills of our own people, and really looking at even the demographic trends that exist and continued urbanization, say in our country and in many parts of our continent. In Africa, we are now moving towards regional integration. We are continuing to see developments and investments in infrastructure. There's manufacturing going on. The very things that will absorb the young people we see, who are the majority of our populations across Africa. And that can only happen if we put more weight on private capital investments. But of course, these have got to be supported by the public sector doing what it ought to, meaning putting the right environment in place for the private investments to thrive.
Rwanda being a landlocked country, President Paul Kagame underscored the need to invest in other sectors that are not affected by Rwanda's geographical position.
Even for our own situation like Rwanda, which is landlocked, that's one aspect. But the other aspect is continuing to invest in those areas that will render being landlocked irrelevant. For example, when we have invested in ICT, when we have invested in skills development of our young people, having knowledge and so on, these are sectors that are not affected by being landlocked.
Here behind closed doors, President Paul Kagame and the ruler of the United Arab Emirates are signing an agreement, the content of which we'll find out in a minute. Still at the conference, the Investment Corporation of Dubai and Rwanda Development Board signed a cooperation and partnership agreement to boost the tourism sector. Under the agreement, the ICD and the RDB will jointly invest in 2 tourist projects in Rwanda, and the Investment Corporation of Dubai will then build a 5-star hotel along with service and recreational facilities. The signing of the agreement was attended by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and ruler of Dubai, and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame. Now, President Paul Kagame took 2 minutes of his time to explain to us what he strives to achieve for Rwanda out of this forum, this being his second time to attend. Your Excellency, this being the second time for you to attend the Africa Global Business Forum, what do you strive to achieve for Rwanda out of this forum?
Well, first of all, it is to put clarity to the situation in Africa, in my country, and what can be gained from the investments and trade with the many representatives of companies or countries and others that are here, because everybody here is looking for a way to make investments happen or do business, different kinds, in different parts of the continent, because our African continent is rich in many respects. And these provide a great opportunity for investments that would benefit not only Africans, but those who make investments there across the world.
Thank you so much, His Excellency.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, the United Arab Emirates has demonstrated itself as a global business hotspot. Available statistics indicate that total exports from Dubai to Africa are close to $1.3 billion annually.
For us to achieve anything, we have also we have to have a strategy. Much as we want Africa getting closer together as one entity, we have to have a strategy for that, and the strategy has to entail certain realities, I think, from what Shabain has just said. First, in my view, we look at individual countries and their specific situations and how these should be well managed. From that, we go to regional integration. The countries that are closer together tend to have a lot of similarities, and therefore it is easier for them to come together. So we find sub-regions getting together and then sub-regions coming together to bring the whole continent together is the next step. So I think if, in my view, therefore, this is the strategy, I think it is a question now of a pace, the pace at which we realize that. So I think there is a good understanding of how we can take together the differences of countries within our continent, at the same time bring these countries together as an entity in the unity of the whole continent.
Thank you so much for being part of this special edition of Business Digest, coming to you from Dubai at the Africa Global Business Forum under the theme New Partners, New Drivers, where we're focusing on forces that will drive Africa to the next level in the next 5 years. Have a very good night and keep watching our TV.